Anti-Semitism is known as hostility or prejudice against the Jewish people. Throughout history, anti-Semitism is abundant in many events. In a video by YouTuber Mr. Beat, several historians are asked why the Jews have been persecuted throughout history.
What causes anti-Semitism?
Because for the most part they're ignorant of what it really stands for. We always have a habit when times get tough of blaming things that we don't know for the reason why things go wrong.
I think they've disseminated throughout many of the populations of the European countries and have always been a minority. They have been easy to be picked on and persecuted and scapegoated for many of the problems of countries as they've gone through economic turmoil.
The two largest examples of anti-Semitism in the past 2,000 years are the Bubonic plague and the Holocaust. When I first learned about the Holocaust, I never understood the reasoning behind blaming the Jews for Germany's hardships. I wanted to understand why they were used as a scapegoat. When searching for the cause of an event, history is a good place to start looking for the culprit. This video will aim to explain the connection between the persecution of Jews during the Bubonic plague to the Holocaust. After the crucifixion of Jesus in 30 CE, ideology split and the Christian faith emerged out of Judaism. Differences in beliefs and customs increased until the two religions were fully separated. As Christianity diffused into European culture, Judaism became a minority. Religious intolerance and fear of what is not understood increased tensions between these groups. Before the outbreak of the Bubonic plague, Jewish communities were subjected to attacks. Even the Crusade of 1096 saw Jews as an enemy due to their control of the Holy Land. In some European communities from the 1100s to 1200s, the Talmud, a Jewish holy book, was destroyed. In the Middle Ages, it was believed that Jews had horns and had a tail that killed Christian children and used their blood for rituals. The Catholic Church prohibited Christians from lending money, leading to most moneylenders being Jewish. This created resentment towards the Jewish population and created the stereotype of Jewish people being greedy. The hostility from the Christian church and state towards Jews was only growing, creating a perfect storm for what was to come, the Black Death. Bubonic plague, or Black Death, wiped out 40% of Europe's population. During this period, half of the Jewish communities were killed or removed from their homes. As seen on the graph, the Black Death saw a huge spike in Jewish persecution during this time period. This would be the largest event of mass persecution until the Holocaust. This second graph shows as mortality rates increased, persecution increased. According to the theory of scapegoating, when members of the majority have a large negative experience, a minority group may be chosen to target in order to feel a sense of control and make sense of the event. But why were the Jews targeted for this scapegoating? One factor was the Christian belief of the Jews poisoning water sources. Cities with this fable had higher rates of persecution than others without it. Due to superstition and the lack of science, the Jewish population was blamed for the disease. Tens of thousands of Jews were burned alive because of this. Horrifyingly, this would not be the last time Jewish people were victims of mass murder. After the Central Powers lost World War I, Germany was blamed for starting the war. Looking at the events, we can see that the start of the war was due to the assassination of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand, but that's a different video. At the Paris Peace Conference, the Treaty of Versailles was formed. This treaty debilitated Germany by making them surrender large amounts of territory that generated large amounts of revenue, limiting their military, and finally paying $37 billion for the damages of World War I. This plunged Germany into economic hardship, and as previously stated in this video, in times of hardship, minority groups are often scapegoated. During Adolf Hitler's reign of terror, he blamed the Jews for all of Germany's problems. Anti-Semitism had been on a strict incline since the Black Death of the Middle Ages. Because of this, it was not too much of a jump to believe the Nazi ideology for many people. There is no exact number, but it is estimated that 6 million European Jews were murdered. The Nazis created concentration and extermination camps that made their mass murder more efficient. It is important to note that Jews were not the only ones targeted by the Nazi Party. 5 million Romani, Jehovah's Witnesses, prisoners of war, the disabled, and homosexuals were murdered as well. The details of these camps are horrifying, but they are necessary to learn about. I think it is important to note that scapegoating is still something that happens today. During the COVID-19 pandemic, people of Asian descent were subjects of hate crime in the United States and the United Kingdom. Anti-Asian hate crime grew 339% from 2020 to 2021. Many people blamed Asians for the spread of COVID. This morbid urge to blame others for our hardships is awful. It is disheartening to look at today and find similarities to historic events that are absolutely horrifying. Wow, this video is kind of a major bummer.